Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of A Chapter a Day, Ch.448. My name is Alan, otherwise known as Hisui, and I'm from ReverseThieves.com, as well as the Speak Easy podcast. And this time I'm looking at Hayate the Combat Butler, Chapter 448, An Assassin from the Past, around Volume 15. And, I was thinking, I know that I've heard this title before, and then I looked it up, and it's a reference to season 2 of Code Geass, the one where spoilers for Code Geass, where Rolo kills Shirley. And I'm like, that's why that title stands out to me. That was obviously an important episode. So, an assassin from the past is a reference to that. Well, obviously not the Volume 15 thing, but that's more a reference to the actual story, where we kind of get an explanation finally of why we have little Athena. And man, Aika, for a character who's hardly used to show up in the series, really has been showing up a lot lately. So, so we find out that she was going to give back, Nagi's grandfather, the king's jewel. He's like, look, if you don't want it, just throw it at Athena. And she keeps trying to throw it out. And he's like, come on, it's super valuable. If you don't want it, don't just throw it away. I'll pay for your damn trip and now just go. And so she goes, she meets Athena basically at the ruins of where, the castle, or at least the gate to the castle, used to be. And she throws the stone at her, and man, Makina must be fast, because she basically turns, and Athena's essentially like, oh no, I've touched the stone, and someone has broken the seals on it, who we learned was Asumi back in the day. And, we already knew that, we just see a flashback of that. And she's like, Makina, take this away, where I'll never find it. And boom, he zooms off. So I guess that's where Makin has been all this time. And yes, when Aika turns around, she sees little Athena, and once again, she's kind of like Nico Robin in Hayate up until recently. One of those people who's a totally nonplussed by anything. Everybody calls her the love master because she just seems so much mature and unfazable. And then, once again, in Investor Z, she was just dealing with, Yukiji, and she was like, oh my, what the, how does this girl's mind work? How are you a teacher? How are you my teacher? How are you anyone's teacher? And so, now, with this, this is the first time we've seen her what the fudge? I threw the stone at her. She was obviously a mature lady. And I turn around and boom, like elementary schooler. What the fudge just happened there? So she freaks out and basically throws Athena at old man Sazanine, and they have a cryptic conversation, at least to Aika, about how, if you touch a king's jewel, and if they're using its power, you basically get cursed back to the last time you used the jewel's power. So that's why she's chibi. And now, she can get uncursed, but the exact way is something that probably only adult Athena would remember. And so Ike is like, all right, I'll do whatever I can to help you out and try to, get you back to your full form. And, So now we finally know that, it was the king's jewel that, made Athena the way she is now. And, Athena's basically like, look, I'm eventually smart enough to figure out a way to at least temporarily get back to my adult form. If I do, I'll contact you, or you try to find me in that form, and I'll, adult me will tell you how to permanently make me, back into sexy lady, not pedo bait. And so they agree to that, and now we see that obviously that little charging device, once again obviously turns her back into full form, and to talk to Hayate's brother, she boom, goes back to, adult, or at least, older teenager Athena, who, is ready for some conversation with Hayate's brother. So, a little more progress on the story. We get to see a little more of, what happened with Hayate's brother, King Midas and all that. And, once again, I think setting up a lot more of the end game, especially now that, possibly Athena will be in some kind of position to get herself back into normal, regular mode, which I think is probably going to be one of the major things that sets off the end of the series. So, this whole conversation, I'm sure, will have a lot more useful information. I mean, this chapter was good, but it was more kind of explaining things that we kind of had accepted as opposed to explaining new things or like old, like really deep mysteries of the series. This was more just getting us up to speed with, what was going on with Athena. But, yeah, I just find it really weird that Aika pops up so much. I mean, she even pops up in the next chapter. I mean, just as a love master delusion in Hinagiku's head, but still, that's more than she's been getting recently. Other than, like, these last few chapters where apparently Hada's like, all Aika, all of the time! I mean, it's like she's gone to, like, at least Chiharu levels of presence. I'm thinking that she's gonna drop off, but it's just odd that she's so prevalent recently. Although, I kind of really wonder, now that it just popped into my head, who is her fiance? That's kind of got me wondering. I wonder if it's, Hinagami, and that's why they haven't showed him in a while. Back to being somebody's butler with the king's jewel. That would be, definitely an interesting choice. But, it might be someone silly that, or just like a totally new character. Yeah, I'm just kind of a little bit curious now that it also pops into my head, and I'm just talking about random stuff in Hayate. I'm really surprised we haven't seen Hisui in a while. I mean, they made that big reveal about her, and like we have totally not seen her since that like big reveal and who her mate is. So yeah, that's just interesting. But you know, glad to see that the mysteries are one step closer to being answered. Obviously, with this much revelation, they're just gonna skip to Hina Hayate silliness in the next chapter. But some progress was made, which was always cool. And there cannot be a conversation between Athena and Hayate's brother that does not have at least a little bit of useful information. I mean, they could always just, Hina and Hayate pop up, and cut off before anything super useful could be said. But obviously, some useful stuff is going to be said. How much of that we'll see when that conversation continues. But all right, see you guys next time.